Next.
It is my honor this evening to welcome to the stage our guest speaker, John Trowbridge, a former Pegasus, to celebrate with us in our graduation from City High School. He is a native of Grand Rapids, attended City for his middle through high school years, graduating in 1987. After graduating from City, he took his intellectual talents to the University of Chicago to study mathematics. Still living in Chicago, he currently is a senior software engineer for Google. By his own admission, his life is an amazing demonstration of how life can take each one of us in unexpected directions. As we listen to him tonight, it will become clear that he is a great example of what a City High School education will do, and the places it could take us as we are all part of inventing the future. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, John Trowbridge.
Members of the class of 2011, parents, teachers, friends, honored guests, I want to start by telling you how honored I am to be here today speaking to you, and also just how profoundly weird it is to be standing up here. Because this is the exact same church where I graduated from City High almost exactly 24 years ago tonight. So after full disclosure, I actually do a fair amount of public speaking for my work, but this is my first commencement address. Usually I'm giving, fairly dry technical talks at academic conferences or, visiting colleges and trying to convince rooms full of earnest computer science undergraduates that they really want to come work for Google. So this is new to me. And when I first got the invitation, I thought, well, commencement address, that's pretty important. That's kind of heavy stuff. What the heck am I supposed to say? So I thought back to my own, I thought best example, maybe I can create something from when I graduated. And I thought back to my own graduation back in 1987. What could I remember? I couldn't even remember who the commencement speaker was. I remember sitting, actually, the class was smaller then, and we all actually sit up on the stage. I remember sitting in the back row feeling kind of nervous and bored. Then I thought back to my college graduation. I couldn't even remember who the commencement speaker was or what they said. I remember it was really hot that day, and there was no air conditioning in English. Realizing that the commencement speeches had been delivered to me had made essentially no impression on me at all, I really felt like the pressure was off from this kid. I guess reminiscing sort of a natural reaction for this kind of circumstance, I just couldn't help but start thinking about, the natural question, where I was in 1987 when I was sitting essentially, a few feet away from where you guys are sitting now, all the things that have happened and just how many things have changed. City High has certainly changed. It's all clearly bigger because I don't think you would all fit up there. We went in a different building. Actually, we're right up the street in kind of a ratty old building that was given to us by what was called junior college now, I guess it's community college now. And it was not very good. It was kind of negative 30, and we didn't have a gym, for example. There were no gyms. We didn't have science labs. So we actually had to get bus when we were going to take bus up to Central High. We were going to take physics and chemistry and things like that. Kind of egregious, actually. So I found that the situation is better now, and I think we've been in a couple buildings since then. So that's good. I also looked at apparently the entire faculty and staff has turned over. So yeah, no one knows me, which is perhaps why I was invited tonight. Something I've noticed is that Grand Rapids has become a lot more cosmopolitan. When I went to high school just right up the street, I spent a lot of time downtown, and I gotta say, it's changed a lot. Back in the 80s, in the early 80s, I think, a lot of American cities had a lot of trouble in the 70s, and my memory of downtown was like vacant storefronts and like drunks and like deinstitutionalized mental patients wandering around. It was kind of post-apocalyptic, and now it's like there's an art museum, it's all shiny, there's a bunch of tall, shiny buildings, so clearly, clearly the city's made some progress, and I'm happy to see that. And then, the big thing which has really changed, one of the big things that's really changed is just technology. Obviously, that's something I'm interested in because I work at Google, so I'm a technology guy. But the speed at which technology has been moving and changing is really, it's kind of unprecedented in the scope of human history. Things have changed so much, so fast. Things, we can barely remember what it was like even a short time ago when things were very different. The funny thing is we become numb to it, right? It's almost amazing. The things we take for granted, the technology, because it's changed so much, it somehow that makes it easier to overlook it. Now you guys have an excuse because you're all relatively young and you sort of can't really remember when things were different. But things are different, and the world has changed more in the last 10 or 15 years of your life than many more times than when I was your age. The world was different, obviously, 10 or 15 years before I graduated, but not that much different. I think it will help you understand why people are so strange these days. If you just kind of keep in mind how things have changed so much so fast. But I think it's also important for another reason. All these things, massive communications networks, checking all the computers in the world essentially, magic question answering machines where you can just type in any question you want to at home, and you can get any random piece of fact or trivia. You don't go to the library for this. One little machine lighter than a paperback can have 1,000 books in. Something that's essentially a supercomputer by the standards of when I was a kid that fits in your pocket and also makes phone calls and plays Angry Birds. And the thing you have to remember is this is actually, if you read science fiction in the 80s or before, in which I was a super nerd, so of course I did, no one really predicted this stuff. The people, when they were predicting the future, everyone was undershot, right? I mean, the failure of predictions was they failed to make predictions that were crazy enough. To the extent that anyone suggested any of this technology would exist at all, the thing they didn't foresee is not only would it exist, it would actually be cheap. It would be so ubiquitous, it would be accessible to anybody, not even just rich Americans and Europeans and people in the developed world, but, rice farmers in Vietnam have flat screen TVs, and, cattle herders in Kenya actually have cell phones. It's kind of crazy. But, even though no one really saw this coming, the seeds of all this stuff were out there in 1987, in research labs and in the minds of scientists and engineers. And the other people really have the ability to take crazy ideas seriously, which is an underrated skill. And this is going to really take decades for us to fully absorb all these changes, sort of socially, politically, culturally. It's a time of upheaval, which again, alluded to. Just keep that in mind to understand why people do some of the strange things they do. And I have some good or bad news for you, depending on your perspective. As a company, Google is an interesting thing, an interesting place to work. And one of the reasons it's interesting is that no one really seems to quite know what we do. If you ask people, what does Google do? Some people will say, oh, you're in the search business, and the search engine is, the thing most people go to with Google. Or some people will say, well, you're an advertising company. That's kind of true. And then, we have our phones now, so people say, you use phones. That's true, but that's really only part of it. The thing I like to say is that we're in the business of inventing the future. And the fact that a major American corporation essentially have this as a mission is another example of just how weird this world is these days. But, Google's portfolio is really any kind of crazy research. We have people working in alternative energy technology, we have people working in robotics, we have people working on self-driving cars you may have heard about. Really anything kind of nutty and science fiction like we try to do. Because I get to meet all of the really smart and really interesting people, scientists and engineers. These are people who are busy inventing our future for us right now. I get to peek behind the curtain. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz back there. I get to see stuff that's not out yet. I get to see products that are on release, find out about new technologies that are in the lab, and aren't going to be out for quite a while yet. And then I get to the worst thing about what we do. I feel this cool stuff, and I don't get to actually tell anybody about it, because it's all top secret. But I can vouch for a quote from one of the few science fiction writers of the 80s who said, if anybody could predict any of this, the guy named William Gibson. He said, the future is already here, it's just unevenly distributed. And this is true. There's all sorts of stuff going on out in the world today that would look like science fiction. Even our modern jaded standards we're used to the internet and things like this. And things are only speeding up. They're not slowing down. And I'm pretty confident that in 10 years, you guys are going to be living with things that we're all going to be taking for granted